Good afternoon and welcome. Welcome indeed to another edition of the Mark Moses Show podcast as we are broadcasting live from the Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorney Studios here on, I believe it's a Thursday. I believe it. And we also want to give a shout out to Walk On Sports Bistreaux in Viera and Chumley's Depot in downtown Melbourne. Let's get to this fine gentleman in Atlanta, Georgia. He is going to be busy over the next week or so with all the different events going on. He's my great friend, Luke Hetrick. Luke, how you doing today?
I'm good as always, man. Busy does not begin to describe it, but we're ready to go. We're ready to go.
Yeah, you do a great job as a, reporter, anchor. You do it all covering sports. And I just look at, you got SEC Media Days starting next week. They're at pretty much College Football Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the All-Star Game, Home Run Derby, baseball. Am I missing anything? What else is going on?
You are. We also have at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Cowboy Carter, Beyoncé, multi-night concert. Now, thankfully, Truist Park, where all the All-Star Game stuff is north of the city. So you're missing that by about 25, 30 minutes. But College Football Hall of Fame, where SEC Media Days are, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, they're a stone's throw from each other. So traffic is going to be, and this is Atlanta we're talking about. This is Atlanta, the capital of traffic, the city that invented traffic. It's going to be brutal, but it's all for a good cause. It's going to be fun. These are the kind of weeks you live for as a sports reporter. So I can't wait for it.
For a good cause, you mean generating revenue for the city of Atlanta? Is that what you're talking about?
Look, as someone who was gifted this Atlanta hat recently, I can now speak for the city and say, yes, it's for a great cause. There's no GoFundMe needed. All of that is funding the city.
Luke, I knew that was going to happen because the last time we had you on to preview the NBA draft, you talked about you went to the Wendell Carter Jr. camp there in Atlanta and that you got a new Orlando Magic t-shirt. I believe the Hawks probably saw the video and said, no, you need to be repping the Hawks.
I don't know if they saw the video. And by the way, I texted you right before this and was like, hey, I'm just getting ready. I almost grabbed the new Magic t-shirt and wore it again, but I was like, I just did it. So let me grab something else. This is from draft night. This is from Hawks draft night headquarters. So they gave us, very kind to gift media members in attendance a couple of the new hats with a little bit of a logo change. So a really cool thing. I've really enjoyed my time covering the Hawks. Obviously, 5 years with the Magic. There's a ton of sentimental value with not just the organization, but the people within it. But, maybe someone saw it. Maybe someone didn't. I don't know. I don't know what was sent from the higher-ups on that one.
Get that man a hat. That's exactly what's happening. You know what's interesting? Since we last talked right before the draft, you had free agency. It's kind of now on a wrap. Now we're going into summer league. It looks like the Magic and the Atlanta Hawks are both like putting their chips in. We want to compete in the East. Have you noticed this as well?
Yeah, I think it's probably the changes that were made give people that reaction of, wow, they're really going all in, specifically on the Magic side of things. You also have to say they probably did that last year. By the fact that they didn't do a ton, the big move was going out and getting a guy that had won a couple championships, your ultimate 3-and-D guy, and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. That was their way at the time saying, like, we feel like what we got, and if everything ascends in the manner in which we think it will, then this is going to work out tremendously. It just didn't, with injuries and the fit and all that went with that. And then it ends up being a contract you have to move off of. This now, with the amount of moves that they made, getting a guy in Tyus Jones, who really is a perfect fit, and people have kind of been pairing those two together theoretically for the last couple seasons. So now they get this done. And then the Desmond Bane trade, what they gave up, that's industry standard. But the fact that the Magic were aggressive in their pursuit for a guy of that skill level and really is the perfect fit, then yeah, it symbolizes that they're all in. And I think they sense and Atlanta senses, this, Mark, the East seemingly is now more wide open, given the injuries to Tyrese Halliburton, given the injury to Jason Tatum, and just kind of the uncertainty that exists in that conference right now. Both those clubs really have gone all in. On the Atlanta side of things, I think they just doubled down in what works best for them. They made some moves last year where it was, we have some pieces that we feel complement Trae Young very nicely because he is the centerpiece, and they are going all in again and again on building this thing around him. This is probably the best supporting cast on paper that he's had. And where it comes down to Atlanta is everything is around Trey. When he's not on the floor, they really struggle. You have guys now, maybe not at the efficiency level that you want, but guys that you really can see go get your own bucket, create your offense, and take a lot of the pressure when 11's on the bench.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot, Luke.
Yeah.
So you look at the Magic, Paolo's the guy. He's
right.
the number one option. If Paolo ain't going, hey, Franz is the second option in this offense.
Yeah.
So you're saying it's Trae Young number one. Who's number two then?
Jalen Johnson. It's Jalen Johnson. And that's a guy that I think before last season, really before the last 2 years, I'd spent some time talking to people within the Hawks organization, and they talk about Trae and glowingly as they would, but they just kept telling me, just wait on Jalen Johnson. Like, we're seeing the ascension. He took his time in the G League. He was a guy that only played a handful of games in college. It was a pandemic season. He had an injury. He sat out the rest of it. And then he just slowly started to build. And you saw it at the end of the 22-23 season, or 23-24, and then into this season, I should say, really take a major step and was their true number two option. And you just saw the rapid growth. Then he has the shoulder injury. He's a guy they're committed to. He's on a 5-year contract, just hit year one of that. But there is cause for concern given what just happened to him. That's why the Porzingis deal made a ton of sense. Get an expiring contract. You get him at a little bit of a bargain. And it kind of helps fill the void of, we don't know what Jalen Johnson's going to be. He should be fine and still be able to be on his, ascension that they think. But they also lacked front court depth. Clint Capella leaves. They needed guys in the front court to complement a Jalen Johnson and Onyeka Okongwu. So it makes a ton of sense. But make no mistake, Jalen Johnson is their true number two. I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Does Trae Young, does he have to look in the mirror and be like, look, you're a great player. You are. He's an all-star. Mm-hmm. But like, all right, we have to switch something up here. It can't be, I'm going to be Trae Young. I'm going to play the same game, and we're going to get into the play. Does he have to do some type of sacrifice to get the team to the next level? He's
already done that to an extent. I mean, you look at Trae Young's time in Atlanta. I mean, he's, garnered the reputation, whether it's fair or not, as the coach killer. Lloyd Pierce came in during the rebuild, Nate McMillan after that. Now it's on Quinn Snyder, who came in midseason a few years back. And they've kind of done the pairings. They've kind of tinkered with his different running mates along the way. It was John Collins for a while. DeJounte Murray was something that they threw a lot in and thought that would work, and it just did not materialize at all. And now you're looking, they try and build up the supporting cast with a Dyson Daniels, Zachary Risacher, the number one pick, who we talked a little bit about last time we were on here. What's his development? And now you have the emergence of Jalen Johnson over the last few years and Kristaps Porzingis. They've kind of surrounded him with as much talent as they can, given how he is as a player. And I get what you're asking. Does he need to take a step back and have a lower usage rate and not have the ball in his hand so much? The fact is, what they've had the last few years, they just haven't been able to do that at all. Trae, I think the last few years has made a better effort on the defensive end, but he's still a liability on that end of the court. Having said all that, this offense and this team runs best when he does have the ball in his hands. It makes it easier for teams to scheme when you get into the postseason, but he's still a really tough stop. But what I think they've done is just added to it and said, we got real supplemental pieces that don't have to wait for you to get them the ball, that don't have to work off of everything that you do, that can go out, you can kick it to them on the wing, and they can go create. Now, this to me might be the last sort of stance for Trae, because they just brought in Ansi Saleh, a new general manager who, based on offseason standards, has killed it. But you're looking at just so many iterations, so many different ways that they've tried to build this thing around Trae Young with running mates and coaches and now another general manager. You're looking at this point, if it doesn't work in the next year or two, Trae might get tired. He's hinted at it before that he wants to be in Atlanta. He wants to win here, but he wants to win, period. So it might be something else. The question then becomes, if this doesn't work, what's the market for Trae Young? Because this has been thrown out before, and it doesn't seem like there's a ton of bites on him in some of these other places.
We're here, Luke Hetrick. I appreciate the answer, because it's interesting with some of these players around the NBA. Like, okay, you're getting yours, but you're not winning. You're not. You know what I think about as a Michael Jordan super homer? I'm sorry, I am. is you think late 80s Jordan, dude, he was averaging 34, 35 points a game. And it wasn't until Phil Jackson showed up and said, like, hey, maybe you just score 29 a game and, get the ball to some of your teammates. That's what I think about. It's interesting also, and I want your thoughts. Dude, I'm listening to like national radio, national TV, podcasts, and they're all like, yeah, the Magic are a top 3 contender now. Yeah, they're good. They're great. And I'm like, that's cool and all.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you have to go play basketball?
Yes.
Do it on the court, even for Atlanta as well. Hey, these teams got to prove it now, right?
And I think for people like us that have been around the organization, have covered them for, 5, in your case, a little bit longer years than I have, you kind of know you got to crawl before you walk. And you've heard this before, and it's been the pipe dream of we want to compete. So I think there's a little hesitance where they haven't won a playoff series in the last 2 years. They haven't won a road playoff game, period. And you're going, okay, now, they're supposed to be a contender. Now they're supposed to be the team to beat in the East. It's a very different set of circumstances when it comes to a process. We've seen this slow build over the last couple of years, and now all of a sudden they're supposed to be there. I think it's hard for us to wrap our heads around it. I look at them. Health is obviously the number one thing. Their style in the regular season just makes it really hard for opposing teams. When Jamal Mosley first started, that first year, that team won 22 games. That might have been, and I say this kindly, that might have been a 15-win team. But they were able to grind out a lot of wins just based on effort. The next year they get to 34 just because they outwork teams. And what's beautiful about this process in Orlando, that has not lingered. That has not wavered because now you have a true superstar, a top 10 to 15 player in the NBA, an all-star caliber too, and now the pieces around them. That to me is what is most impressive, that the culture has not been sacrificed at all. And the identity has not changed. But I get it. It is a little bit shocking to the system to hear, like, now you, Orlando, who has not been to a conference final in 16 years, you're going to be the ones that we think are going to get it done. And that's a difficult position for people to come to grips with. I'm sure they're very optimistic about it. I get it. I have some semblance of fanhood for that team. But yeah, it is a little bit like, whoa, now all the pressure is really on. And so that's an odd spot to be in.
All right. I've been here since 2013. I have seen 4 playoff appearances, and they've won 6 games. Oh,
yes.
Yeah, I think that's right. Not good. But no, it's going to be exciting. That's basketball. So I appreciate the update. We were talking about this at the top of Luke Hetrick. Okay. The All-Star game is coming up Monday, Tuesday. Right. Is the city, are you getting that buzz that the city is excited for the All-Star game?
Yeah, they are. Atlanta is. And remember, it's back now because there was, a lot of outcry a few years back. The All-Star game was supposed to be in Atlanta, got taken away during a very heightened time in our political landscape. Yeah. Now that it's back, and I think for a lot of people in Braves country specifically, this is perfectly timed. This has not been a good season for the Braves at all. They've been decimated by injury. You have Ronald Acuna Jr., who is a starter, who is playing some of the best stretch of baseball of his career. And that's, again, coming off another torn ACL. You have Matt Olson, too, who is an Atlanta native, grew up, played his high school ball at Parkview, which is about 35 minutes from the ballpark. He's going to be an all-star again. So having this, it is nice. Atlanta and people in the South take a lot of pride in their Braves. I always say this. This is the state's number 2 team. It is Georgia football 1, and it is the Braves 2 because of the history they have. It was the team of the South for decades. It was a national brand with the old superstations, with Ted Turner and TBS. So there is a sense of pride. There's a sense of the brand. And Atlanta hosting the All-Star game in a beautiful ballpark that they are very proud of, and it is top-notch. This is a great moment for the city. They're excited about it. They should be. But, again, with the Braves, it's going to be sort of a moment. There's a lot of uncertainty beyond that, how things go for them. But just for this time and place, Atlanta's going to do it first class. They always do. It's going to be incredible.
I think Acuna hit 2 bombs last night, and then I believe
his back's fine, by the way. He gave us a scare where he sat, Tuesday night at the start of that series with the A's. He had, some back pain going through warm-ups. A trainer found it, and they were like, okay, you're not going to go. So then it was, what was he not going to be in the All-Star game? Is he not competing in the home run derby? Like that's a big deal, having our hometown guy who's done it twice already, hasn't won. He's going to do it in front of the fans, and now he's not. Like, that was a scare. So he comes back last night, and it's like, okay, he's fine. Thanks for a little drama a week before all this goes down.
What's it like covering an Atlanta Braves game as a broadcaster? Because look, you got thousands and thousands of Braves fans. You're on the field. What's that experience like?
What I like about baseball, and particularly, and with the Braves, because they are a first-class organization, I think covering Major League Baseball makes you a better journalist and a better reporter. Because we talk about this too. When you cover the NFL, they're playing one game a week. The urgency week to week is so incredible. Like, you lose 2 or 3 games in a row, that's your season. You cover baseball, you lose 2 or 3 games. I mean, that's baseball. You go on a 6-game losing streak. Everyone does that throughout the year. It happens. So it trains your mind. It makes you have a different perspective. And you're talking to these guys, you may go up to, and I'm just picking a name out, you may go up to an Austin Riley, third baseman. You might talk to him on Friday, and then he does something, Saturday, Sunday. Does he really want to talk 3 straight days to the media? Does he really want to do that? So that, to me, it's made me a better journalist. It's made me more aware. But when it comes to just the job itself, I love it. It's a great town to be in, to cover Major League Baseball. The fan support. I mean, you look out, Mark, when you're in the press box, there aren't a ton of empty seats. There really aren't when it's a weekend game. And then you look even during the week at night. I mean, it draws incredibly well. And that's me talking as a Pittsburgh Pirates fan who sees that stadium empty a lot of times. You're a Chicago White Sox fan. Like, you see it. But when you have that team, that brand that people really love and will come from all corners of the Southeast to come see them, it's a cool experience.
Over the weekend, I was at my buddy's house, Jonathan. Him and his wife, Ashley, they're big Braves fans. They live in Virginia, and you're right with what you're saying. They are the team of the South. They were for a long time. And
they're an Orlando team, too. They're an Orlando team from their time at Disney for years and years, spring training. They tapped into a fan base down there.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So what's funny is they had a poster for Freddie Freeman, and I just blurred out, "Oh, I met Freddie Freeman one year." Like,
I haven't heard this.
Yeah, this was like 10 years ago. We're at Brave spring training at Wide World of Sports at Disney. It's me and Corey McCartney, used to work for Fox Sports. Yeah, we said hello to him for a minute during spring training. The look on their faces, like, wait, you met Freddie Freeman? Yeah. So have you gotten a chance? Have you said hello to Ronald Acuna Jr.? Have you gotten this opportunity?
Yeah, and Ronald does speak English. His strength with it is not to the comfort level that he can do it on his own. He can answer a question. He can understand and comprehend a question that he gets in English, but he will answer it in Spanish and go through his translator. So that is, it's one of those, you say hello, he'll wave to you. It's nothing like that. So it's just one of those things. Good guy. It's hard to develop a rapport. You develop, honestly, a great rapport with the translator. This is how that works. That's how it works too. But again, he's been someone that typically is more quiet and reserved. He's a big personality on the field. You go out there for batting practice, he is loud. He's making jokes. He's getting the energy up. He's talking trash to his teammates. Like, he is having fun. But he is a little more, when it comes to the locker, reserved. And that's not uncommon.
I'm going to say this to you. You're the guy there, but I will say this. There is no way, and I know they've come out and said this, he's untouchable. The Braves would never, unless you get the super billion King's ransom offer, I think Acuna's on there for a while.
I've always learned never say never. You are looking at a guy, Mark, who, as incredible as he is, and you look at just the facts, he's had 2 major knee injuries. Now, the counter to that is, look what he's done coming off 2 major knee injuries. He had an MVP season in 2023, had the 70-40 season. And this year, since he's come back in May, he's been one of the best hitters in baseball. And there's a reason he's an all-star starter. Some of that's the fan vote, but obviously it's the performance on the field. I wouldn't look and say that that there's no chance. I think it's extremely, extremely difficult. it would take something seismic for a trade like that to happen. I also look at the Braves in this organization right now. They didn't bring back Freddie Freeman. That was something they did not get done. A lot of that has been speculated with Freddie's agent and everything like that. Max Fried went to arbitration several times. They couldn't get a deal done. He goes to the Yankees. I don't think this happens with Acuna, but I also recognize the fact, and you have to point it out, that Alex Anthopoulos is a guy that will make a deal, that will get very creative, and he's gotten a lot of good pieces at a bargain. So they could flirt out the Acuna thing. I doubt it happens. I would be shocked if it does. But again, never say never. And you're also looking at what's Brian Snitker's status at the end of this season. You know, this last year of his contract. He's been with the organization in some form or fashion since the late 70s. Does that change things? Do they go full rebuild? Do they start, sending people away? I don't think they're in a place to do a full rebuild, but they're 11 games under 500 at this point, not what they thought, and they've had a slew of injuries. So you never say never. I think it's incredibly unlikely. I'd be shocked if it would happen. But again, in sports these days, MLB is different than NBA, NFL. We thought Luka was untouchable. That might be a poor example. A lot of times I don't like to make the comparisons cross sport, but I mean, it happens.
Oh, it's fine. No, yeah. Look, it did happen. Then the follow-up for Luke Hetrick is, or I'm putting you on the spot. Are you covering anything for the All-Star game? Are you going as a fan? What are you doing there, buddy? I know it's
doing it all. What did I tell you at the beginning? Yeah, and this is the thing that I think people need to recognize. Tuesday is going to be remarkable because you have the home run derby the night before where Acuna is competing. Then with SEC Media Days, the very next morning, usually first one up on Tuesday, is Kirby Smart.
Georgia.
So everyone will be there for Kirby Smart and Gunnar Stockton and the rest of the Bulldogs to talk. And then you got to go back up to the All-Star game that night. So I just wanted to point out the events that happen in a 24-hour stretch are going to be incredible. So it's all hands on deck. Have I gotten my assignment yet? I have not. I know I'm going to be involved in some regard.
All right. What if they're like, yeah, you could do that, or we have a one-on-one interview with Beyoncé? Which one? I might go with, look, I might get killed. I might take the one-on-one with Beyoncé.
So you're saying I either get the one-on-one with Beyoncé or I go cover the All-Star game? Is that what you're saying? Or I go to SEC Media? What do you say? Oh, I'm taking the one-on-one with Beyonce. I can ask Kirby Smart a question at a press conference weekly. Yeah. Yes, it would be nice to go to the All-Star game. There'd be a feather in the cap. How many sports people can say they interviewed Beyonce? That's the thing. How many reporters, anchors, how many journalists in general can say they interviewed Beyonce? I'd be all about it.
I like this, man.
I loved your work in Goldmember. I'm sure that's a question that she gets quite often. That's what I would lead with.
Tell me about Becky with the good hair. I know the lingo. I know the lingo here. I do.
Sometimes when I have cocktails, Beyonce, I do sing "Drunk in Love." I don't think it's as good as you, but here's my rendition of it. What do you think? Love your feedback.
I would love to see this. I would pay top dollar. Man, I looked at the tickets. One with this. I look at the tickets for the home run derby. On top of the roof, maybe $400 or $500 to go. Dude, is that a bucket list where, as a sports fan, you want to see a home run derby in person?
Oh, I think that's your bucket list thing. That's probably so. I've kind of said this recently. My bucket list would probably be Game 7 of an NBA Finals. Whoa. I've heard people talk about, Super Bowl's a big thing. I've had some people go and they say, as like sports fans, especially if you're a college football fan, just as much, if not more, in the NFL, you love the atmospheres. You love the raw emotion when you get to the NFL, to the Super Bowl, I should say. It's so produced. It's such a production that it doesn't feel like a game. It feels like an event, so it's different. But I think like Game 7 of the NBA Finals, Game 7 of a Stanley Cup final would be incredible. And this is a weird one for me. I've said this. It's going to sound so – I think from being in the South, I said this the other day to my girlfriend. One of my bucket list things is to go to Tuscaloosa and just hear that whole stadium sing Sweet Home Alabama and Dixieland Delight. That's all I want to hear. I'm not picky. I know how weird that sounds. That's kind of one of the things that I want to hear because every stadium has their song, but hearing that I don't know. It's just a weird thing that I wanted to see. What about you?
It's a great list, dude. I was at the SEC title game at the old Georgia Dome when Bama beat Florida. Mm-hmm. And I think Bama still might be scoring in that game. I'm sorry to say this. It was not good. But it was cool. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I was on the sideline pregame, and the Alabama marching band came out. What? And you were like, what is this? Mm-hmm. It was incredible to see in person.
It's was. College football, if you're a diehard fan, kind of warps your perception of what is like a bucket list thing then, because a lot of people want the atmospheres, and it's really hard for any other sport to top it in terms of college football. Like, I grew up going to Penn State whiteouts. So to me, it's loud, it's a scene, it's a spectacle, the energy is unmatched. And I say that as someone, yes, that's a Penn State fan, and it's not like, oh, I need to have this semblance of fandom. Comparing it to every other place I've been on the field covering games, it's number one. It is a number one environment. Florida is very close. Florida, the Swamp at night, won't back down, everything. Florida is incredible. But when you are a college football junkie and you're around the pageantry, you're around all the energy, it is really hard to top for
I sports. Know. And winning the SEC title game, seeing that in person is awesome.
It's incredible.
I'll just say this, and I'll let you go, and I appreciate coming on again. I've gone to some great things. I really have. For me, nothing beats Championship Sunday in the NFL. Nothing. Yeah, nothing. I've lost it. I've experienced losing, which is just like your heart's getting ripped out. Yep. But when you win that game with your favorite team, you're there.
Oh.
Nothing.
Which one was this? Which one are you referencing?
I went 06-07 when my Bears
Saints.
Yeah. And there's that moment where your brain realizes we are going to the Super Bowl. And not like you're a New England fan. You went for 3 straight years. You know, like, we are going to the Super Bowl. Nothing beats that feeling. Nothing.
And as a Steeler fan growing up, who's had, I've witnessed in my life 4 Super Bowl appearances, really 3 that I've seen. I was like 4 when they lost to the Cowboys in the mid-90s. But, I'm in high school and college, so I don't have the sense of it yet. Now it would probably be a lot different for me, to experience that. I will say, as we're wrapping up, what was the number one thing we were going to talk about and we didn't even get to?
Let me see if I wrote down my notes. Kirk Cousins.
We didn't even talk about it yet. I was like thinking, I'm sitting here like, this is a great conversation. Wait. Yeah, we didn't even get to it.
No,
I got time.
I'll just say this about Kirk Cousins. That guy's got a great agent. You think about a guy. I mean, he is a good NFL quarterback. He's going to play in the league for 15 years. Hasn't really won anything, and people keep giving him money. It's incredible, dude. It is.
To me, he is that, hey, we know what we're going to get. We know if we plug you in, we're going to get an adult. We're going to get someone that outworks everyone, that understands the playbook, that can be a leader, that's going to go out in the field and be, for the most part, very, very productive. He's one of those guys. Can we plug him in to what we have already? Can we plug him into this roster? And we think the roster's good, but with Kirk Cousins, who's a good quarterback and everything meshes, could that get us over the top? I mean, he's been to the playoffs a handful of times. He's won playoff games. So it made sense. To me, just watching it, I mean, I don't know what your thoughts were, but the whole thing screamed. And again, this is not a story. This was a story throughout last season. Yeah. This was a story early in the offseason. Time has passed. It's just everything's coming to light. We get Kirk's side of things, which confirms a lot of what's been speculated. This whole thing just screams risk versus reward. That's all this was. Kirk Cousins takes a risk leaving Minnesota, coming off a torn Achilles to go someplace else. Atlanta takes a risk, given a 35, 36-year-old quarterback coming off a torn Achilles, a multi-year deal, which they were the only ones that were going to give him that. Ton of guaranteed money and the assurance you're going to be our starter for this year and for the foreseeable present future, whatever you want to say. And so Atlanta took the risk of, we're not going to tell them about Michael Penix Jr. We're not going to tell them that that's going to be our plan. And you can look at that from either way, but turns out the risk was he might get upset. He might feel some type of way about it, which he did. So that kind of, I don't want to say fractured the relationship, but certainly gave reason for pause on Kirk's side of things. And then how the injury was handled by him and the organization from week 10 last year on. I mean, you see it. Kirk didn't want to give up that starting spot. I got it. And a lot of people are bashing him as a team guy that says, wait a minute, like if you're all about the team, like you say, shouldn't you put the team first and say you're injured? I compare it to us, Mark. Like if we're in a corporate world, if we're in an office and we're not performing well, are we going to be the ones to go to our boss and say, hey, you might want to demote me and give someone else our position because I'm just not getting the job done? That's not going to happen. Then you go, well, it's up to the bosses, it's up to management to recognize that we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing, or we're not as effective, or our production has dropped. And so that's where you put it. I just think we're at a place now where both sides took a risk. It didn't work in 2024. The Falcons probably have the more immediate reward in this is who we believe is going to be our quarterback for the next 10 to 15 years. Kirk Cousins, he's looking to be a starter elsewhere. Maybe it works out for both sides. I hope it does. But as far as 2024 went, it was a risk, and no one really got the benefit of it.
I have to be honest with you. I forgot he's still on the Falcons. Like,
he still is.
Yeah, because I'm thinking like, all right, I got Baker Mayfield, Trevor Lawrence, Tua. I'm worrying about these quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I forgot. I thought, oh, did they get rid of him?
Nope.
And then you forget, oh, yeah, he's still on the roster.
And he's got the roster bonus for next season. He's got $10 million in his pocket for that. So that's going to hit.
Baby.
He's got the guaranteed money and everything. And this is a situation where people freak out. I can't believe you're paying backup quarterback, I forget the number off the top of my head, but, a lot more than your starting quarterback. I look at that and I get it. But I said, usually you have this amount allocated to a quarterback room. It just so happens the guy that is the leader in salary is not your starting quarterback. Does that stink? Is that unfortunate? Yeah, it does. We're also at a place, too, where Kirk Cousins probably needs to have some semblance of an image toward. Not that I think he did anything wrong, but he's probably going to have to be a backup for this year. He's probably now transitioned into the emergency starter, the Joe Flacco type role. Andy Dalton, whatever it may be, and he might not like that. And I thought pre-injury he was fantastic last year. But this is a situation, hey, if said quarterback goes down in training camp or gets hurt in the preseason, or our top pick is really struggling, we might want to strike the deal. We might want to get it done. And it's also Atlanta saying we're going to do this for one more year. We can hold on to him. Then we can cut bait. And now he can go wherever he wants and be a starter somewhere, or, have a chance to compete for a starting job, but it's not going to be here. I will say for Kirk's benefit, he does have a great relationship with Michael Penix Jr. That there's not been a lot of, contention there. They have both sung each other's praises consistently. Kirk called him when he got benched and said he was going to be in his corner, and he has done that to all of our knowledge. So, and Michael Penix Jr. continues to praise Kirk Cousins for his mentorship, not just throughout this time being there, but since that change has happened.
Wait till Penix throws 2 interceptions. Then your job will be very interesting. Wait till you're going to have fun this fall, buddy.
This went downhill so fast. Where it was after the Thursday night Bucs game. I mean, Kirk Cousins has the chains, swag surfing. Everyone loves it. He's at Waffle House the next day with Pat McAfee on the show. Like, he's going to Cookout. He's doing all the Atlanta things. They beat the Cowboys like week 9. They're 6-3. He's throwing the ball over the yard. And you're like, okay, they're fine. He's great. This is going to be awesome. And then there was the 2 games. Really, it was 3. But it was the 2 games with New Orleans. He gets hurt. You kind of throw that out. They were really bad in Denver. I don't think that was all on him. Defensively, they couldn't stop anyone. The Chargers game was the worst game of his career, where he throws the 4 interceptions. One of them was a bad red zone one. The other was a pick 6. He had just lost it. And at that point, in a 2-3 week stretch, it's like we went from he might be an MVP candidate. He might be a guy that really does take us. We feel like we can beat anyone in the NFC to, oh my God, what did we do? We gave this guy how much money for how many years? We got to play Penix now. It just happened so fast in the NFL.
You're absolutely right. And it's funny from the Buccaneers standpoint, I'll let you go, where the Bucs fans are like, well, we're going to win the division. It's like, did you remember You won 9 games, and that's because Atlanta fell down the drain at the end of the season, or Carolina's got awful.
Yeah.
The Saints, like the Bucs fans, and I give them credit. Look, and that organization is great. In the last 5 years, made the playoffs every year, 4 division titles, Super Bowl championship. But they're not winning 14 games a year. They're not as a team. And I don't expect them to do that this year either. I think this is going to be a dogfight.
It's going to be a dogfight again because it has been, even with the Tom Brady success after the Super Bowl. They didn't even win the division that year. But even after that, they were not running away with this division. It was coming down to the last few weeks. And this, I think you've got to look at it. They won the division despite getting swept by Atlanta last year. And right. Kirk Cousins was phenomenal. I mean, look at his stats in those 2 games. He breaks a franchise record in the Thursday night game. I think he throws for 509 and 4 touchdowns.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah, and then I think it was 4 touchdowns in Tampa, a few weeks later. So Atlanta has kind of had their number the past few years. Tampa's been the better team. And I said this, I was on your show after the Thursday night game. I said I would not waver if I was the Bucs. I would probably give Atlanta the nod that they're going to win this division, but I do not count the Bucs out at all, and it changes no opinion that I have of them. I still feel that way. Certainly things have to figuring out what it's going to look like without Liam Cohen, how things go from here, but I just trust that organization to be competitive, to win anywhere from 9 to 11 games, and be really hard to beat in the playoffs. I don't know if I can say that right now about Atlanta because they've proven to me otherwise.
Luke Hetrick, I appreciate coming on. I know you're going to be a busy man. Good luck with your coverage next week, and I hope I can get you on again sometime.
Thank you. You call, I am on. Schedule always cleared for you and Beyoncé.